Good morning, everyone. My name is Aaron Gunn. I'm Director of Product at 2600 Hertz, and with me I have our CEO, Darren Schreiber.
Good morning.
And today we're on to talk about our new product, Wholesale Mobile for resellers. A couple of things before we get started. We'll be muting everyone for the presentation. So if you have questions, you can use the questions toolbar in the GoToMeeting app. You can also use the chat to ask questions. We have a couple other organizers on the call, and Darren will be trying to answer some of the questions live as we go. At the end, we will have a Q&A session for any other questions you guys have. And so now we can get started. I am going to turn off the video while we present. It makes it a little easier to focus on the presentation, and then at the end we'll turn the video back on. Great. Okay, so let's talk about our meeting agenda for today. First of all, we're going to talk about who is 2600 Hertz. If you're not familiar with us or what we do, we're just going to talk about that briefly. Then we're going to go into the current state of the wholesale mobile market and discuss what current mobile reseller offerings are out there. Then we're going to introduce 2600 Hertz Mobile, and we're going to talk about how does the PBX integration work and what devices are supported. And finally, we're going to go into how can you package this to make revenue most effectively and get started selling. And then, as I said, we're going to dive into question and answer period at the end. Okay, so first, who's 2600 Hertz? If you don't know, we're a unified communication software company. We're based in San Francisco, California, and we make global communications software and services that resellers, service providers, and other people, mostly in the channel, use to go make revenue on things like Office PBX and other communication services. We do have a few direct enterprise clients, but mostly the vast majority of what we do is working with channel partners like most of you. We do rich voice, video, and messaging services. And that's us. Now, what's wholesale mobile? So wholesale mobile is an industry term. It is basically, if you look at that chart, this is from an industry analysis from UBS. The big carriers like Sprint, Verizon, and AT&T have four major categories for how they classify all their wireless revenue. There's prepaid and postpaid. Those are going to be, the AT&T store versus your Circle K or your corner store. There's also connected devices, so Internet of Things, and then everything else, especially when there's another intermediary who's leasing capacity on their network, that is wholesale mobile. Now, it is a smaller segment. Their retail is obviously much bigger, and that's their bread and butter. But the retail market for the big carriers has become saturated in the last couple of years. They're not really expecting hardly any growth out of that over the next few years, whereas wholesale revenue is projected to grow 7% as people find more and more ways to bring value add to the wireless signal. So the current mobile reseller market, if you as a reseller, a VAR, a service provider, if you want to go out there and sell mobile signal, it's a little bit difficult right now. You can go sign up with one of the major carriers and become an MVNO yourself. That tends to be a $300,000, $1 million upfront commitment. Usually 2 to 3 years at least, you have to sign a contract that you're going to do so much revenue. And generally, the carrier isn't going to help you with your device strategy, all that other stuff, your billing, and everything else is really going to be on you to tie your systems into that. So it can get quite expensive. The second major way you could sell mobile signal to your customers right now is through an agent program. Ting and Freedom Pop have some agent programs. AT&T has an agent program. If you go into any Circle K or corner store, you're going to see the vendors that offer agent programs. Now, those are easy, all the devices and the setup is very easy, but it's a consumer model, so there's no business features on that. You're not speaking directly to your clients, and it's a fixed revenue cut. You're just getting a percentage of the sale. The final strategy, and this is what your Vonages and your Ring Centrals of the world generally have done, is it's not even mobile service. It's bring your own device, and we'll give you a soft phone app that goes over a VoIP connection over your LTE connection. And if you're in a good Wi-Fi coverage zone, the voice quality is pretty good. But generally, you don't have native dialer control. If you're in a weak signal area, it's going to be unreliable voice quality. And frankly, all you can charge is an extra couple bucks a month to add that OTT app to the handset. So there's really no service revenue that comes off of that. So now that we've covered the current market, let's talk about 2600 Hertz mobile and how it's different. So first of all, what is 2600 Hertz mobile? I know a lot of you have been trying to get your heads around this for a while. Some of you came to KazooCon, got a bit better of an idea. But let's dive right in because I think we've simplified it nicely. First of all, it's real mobile service. So it's CDMA and LTE data with wide coverage. It's also CDMA quality voice. And that gets priority on the carrier network as far as delivering that voice signal because it's so important to get that with sub-100 millisecond latency. And then finally, it's SMS and MMS messaging on the handset. Secondly, it's a PBX integration that supports multiple inbound numbers, works off the native dialer, and offers you true enterprise mobility. And I'll be digging into the details on that as well. Finally, it's broad device support. So we enable you to bring professional handsets, tablets, and hotspots onto the network and put them in your users' hands. So we're going to break all three of those down and go into a little more detail now. And we're going to start with the service. What is the service? Well, it's big carrier mobile service. And that's because we are leasing capacity on Sprint's network, which gives us strong CDMA and LTE coverage in the US 48. I believe you can get some signal in Hawaii as well, although it's not quite as good. It gives you up to 150 megabits per second throughput. That's because of something called tri-band LTE, where they're actually using 3 separate frequencies. So you can get very high quality bandwidth through this connection. And there's a coverage tool available in our service so that you can check to make sure if you're going to go sell a phone in a certain zip code that it's going to work where you are. And again, I'll address that in a second. We also offer easy setup and deployment, so there's no equipment required other than the end user devices, so it just works out of the box. You just activate it in our portal and it's ready to go. And we give you reseller controls for policy and billing that let you make money off of this thing and charge the way you want to charge. To talk about coverage, and just in case we have any international partners or open source users on here, for now, this is only in the US 48. So we give you nationwide voice, data, and messaging in the US 48. Currently, we don't offer roaming as part of this package. But it is true LTE coverage, and you can see that we are in the vast majority of locations in the United States. There's a couple areas in the Rockies, but if you look at other big carriers' maps, it pretty much looks exactly the same as the rest of theirs. Again, tri-band LTE, this is 150 megabits per second coverage, and you can check that in our portal. So just to reiterate exactly what this service is, it is mobile voice, mobile 4G, LTE, and 3G data, and it's SMS, MMS messaging on the handset. So once you register a handset and hand it to a user, they're able to do all these things with just the basic service. Now, if that's all it was, it wouldn't really be that much different from a Ting, but we are a business-focused company. So we've brought some additional tools to make this a compelling offering for your business clients. And that comes, the main feature of that is our PBX integration. So we're going to so in order to explain that, I'm going to take a step back for a minute, and we're going to talk about what is Kazoo and what is our hosted cloud. So Kazoo is our open core software stack that we've built up. It's a class 4, class 5 hybrid soft switch. And it enables us to provide a modern service provider experience through apps and APIs on our platform. So there's a couple of apps for doing PBX related functionality. We have a user portal and things like a conferencing UI. We also let you, as the reseller, do your own carrier and trunk management. It's very powerful. It helps you save a lot of money. And again, we have most of our experience in the fixed line market, providing a high quality reseller experience. So it's not just that it can do PBX, it's that we're in tier 1 data centers, and we only use tier 1 for our data centers, network providers, and our carriers. So that's when you take Kazoo and our hosted cloud experience that we provide to most of our resellers in the United States. And that's how we're able to provide our 2600 hertz mobile experience. We're providing them out of the same data centers. In addition, we do broad IP device support for fixed line devices. So again, just having experience in the industry, most of our partners don't like ripping and replacing their clients. They're able to just onboard them whatever equipment that they have, including things like soft phones and ATAs. And so we've spent 6 years building out this truly powerful fixed line platform that is in the U.S., and it's optimized across the U.S. for connectivity and latency. And we've taken this experience and we've brought it to mobile. And the most important way we've brought it to mobile is with Smart PBX, which is our flagship application. This is an SMB cloud PBX application, and what it does is it allows our resellers to set up an office in 30 minutes or less. That means setting up your users, provisioning your devices, all the things that you need to go in there and do. And then from then on, you should really be able to do remote provisioning and support because you have this very handy cloud portal to log into. Talking about PBX features that Smart PBX brings, there's a lot of them, but this should really sort of, what does Smart PBX do? These are the big features that most of our office clients are looking for. So on the fixed line, we've already brought all these features to market. And so what we did was we joined Smart PBX up with our mobile software, and we've taken our Kazoo open core platform and we tied it to the mobile voice channel. So again, it's not a VoIP connection when you're on these mobile devices. We've actually tied it to the carrier's own high priority voice channel, and we've extended PBX functionality to the mobile device on the server side. And that's really important because once you're controlling the call from the server side, you can do a bunch of features that doesn't require client software, clients like a soft phone device on your mobile, or a soft phone on your mobile device. So what are some of those special features that you get when you join up mobile with Smart PBX? Well, out of the box, you get native extension dialing. You can also seamlessly move between devices. It supports things like BLF on your IP phone, so I can see when a mobile user is on their mobile device. And then and obviously all these other features that you saw on the PBX as well. So once you add that together, it's not just a Smart PBX solution anymore. Now it's a mobile feature as well. And that's where a lot of the real power of this platform comes from. So I'm going to play a video right now. It might take me just a moment to set it up. So I'm going to pause for just a moment so you guys can see the video demonstration of what it looks like in your user's hands. Okay, is it playing or not? Okay. Nope, it's not showing it. Okay. So rather than show it, oh, let's try one more time. There we go. Nope, it's not cooperating this morning. Okay, so instead of doing that, we're just going to point you to our mobile website right now. It's an issue with the meeting software we're using. So let's keep going, and if you want to see the video, you can actually go 2600hertz.com.
We'll get that fixed, and it's already on our website. If you want to go ahead and take a look at the video, you'll be able to find it there as well. And then you're going to go back to your screen share.
Just a moment.
And of course, technical difficulties in the middle. Just a moment, folks.
Okay, so rather than show you the video, you can go online to 2600hertz.com under our products, and if you want to check out the video so you can see what the experience is like, it shows one of our employees walking around, being able to use the different features. Highly recommend you go check it out. Okay, so let's talk about why is this so cool? Because this is truly different. The voice piece is truly different. We've brought true mobile voice services to the PBX, and that means there's not a, you don't need a soft phone app to do this. We're handling the routing on the server side. That's going to give you better latency and less drops because we understand how the network needs to be configured. The fact that it's on a better voice channel, that being the CDMA voice channel, it means better quality because this is the voice channel that the big carriers use, so it has to be reliable. They have emergency services requirements. This is complete, if you're using a soft phone app, there aren't these requirements, and in fact, again, if you walk where there's a signal drop, commonly you'll lose that phone call, which is really annoying. And this is something that one of my coworkers said to me. It's a great example. Have you ever used Skype on your cell phone, and do you still? I think that is a great way of capturing. If you want to sell a business voice experience, it needs to be reliable. And then finally, your PBX features work out of the box. So all your standard PBX features and the mobile device truly becomes one with the rest of the system. Okay, so now the last part of what the offering is, it's broad device support, and here to talk about that right now is Darren Schreiber, our CEO.
All right, so some of you remember that we actually started this project multiple years ago, and when we did, we had announced all sorts of rules regarding what devices you could bring to the 2600 hertz mobile service, and frankly, it was complicated. And part of those were rules that were imposed on us by our upstream provider. Most of those rules are gone. So the good news today is that you actually now can bring any Sprint branded device, and it should work with our system. That's the latest models of iPhones, latest Android phones, latest tablets, pretty much the latest anything. And it doesn't just include phones, that also includes tablets and MiFi devices. Basically, if it has the Sprint logo on the device, even though you're not actually buying Sprint service directly, we're just using their towers for wholesale service, you are able to use that device with our service. Now, every time I say that, people often ask me, so does that mean I can bring my iPhone 7? Does it mean I can bring my Galaxy S7? The answer is yes. You should be able to bring those handsets. We have broad manufacturer support now, and you can use both new and used devices in the recent models, new and used devices. So some of the examples are on your screen here, and obviously you can use your imagination for other devices you might think of. Now, I don't just want to focus on cell phones because a lot of people have asked about services outside of cell phones, specifically data-related services, tablets, MiFi devices. These kinds of things really open up the market for not only just selling PBX service, but you can also sell the other devices that people now kind of use together with phone service. Some of the things that people kind of forget about that these are super useful on, obviously, if you have an IT staff, you might give them all tablets or MiFi devices to take with them while they're on the road at client sites. You also have medical and emergency personnel. It's becoming more and more common to have MiFi devices power, excuse me, cellular networks powering the point of sale devices at a restaurant or a anywhere where they take the payments. Of course, cranky CEOs like myself want to be online everywhere we go now, every minute of the day. So that's important. You can kind of offer it as a bundle. The phone service comes with the MiFi service, comes with the tablet as well. And another one people kind of forget about is places where they upsell or charge you extra for getting internet service, where the prices are frankly kind of outrageous and they're temporary. Things like trade shows and marketing events. A lot of times those vendors will charge $1,000, $2,000 just for a couple days of internet. And you could really bring your own if you have even light to moderate usage, and that usually goes pretty well. Obviously, you have to check coverage, but generally speaking, that's going to work in your favor and save you a bunch of money. So again, on this data-only devices concept, if we had to recommend some devices, the Netgear 770 and the Franklin R850, those are pretty good MiFi hotspots for small, medium businesses that are kind of on the go and represent an example of the types of things you can sell outside of the cell phone arena with us. In addition, one thing that I think people forget about is some people still want a good old analog phone line. And in a lot of cases, they want that phone line out in a remote location or in a trailer that's in an event, a moving place, things of that nature. You can actually buy a device called the Phone Connect, which actually lets you, it has two analog jacks on the back, and it lets you actually plug in old analog devices, but they go over the cellular network. And ironically, they go from the cellular network back to our VoIP system, so you can control them, and they still get PBX features and all the other services that you might expect. It's really handy. It sounds insignificant, but if an event planner is often on the road for a week or something, and they're working out of a temporary office somewhere, this effectively lets them keep this in a closet somewhere and have the same phone number as the phone on their desk. And then when they're out in the field, they just pick this up and bring it with them, hook it up wherever they are, and set up a good old cordless phone or something similar that they're used to, and now they have their same phone number working in a remote location. So that's a super popular way to have that analog phone service be available elsewhere. And yes, I'm on a bleeding edge service discussion talking about analog service elsewhere, but nonetheless, people still ask for it. Now, Aaron's going to talk a bit more about selling the service and how you actually can package it up into a way where people actually want to buy it.
Thank you, Darren. So now you know what it is. We've talked through the 3 steps. So it's a mobile service with a PDX integration, and it's broad device support. Next step is, how do you guys sell this? It's not that different for all of you who have been in the fixed line traditional market, but there are a couple caveats. There's a couple more things to charge for, and we're going to go through that now. Really important, again, to sort of set the stage. What does it look like for the end user? So the end user has a mobile device. When you're done with the sale, your end user will have a mobile device that works with their PBX numbers and the mobile number on the device. That user will be able to leave their desk in the middle of a phone call and walk around to lunch or the next meeting because they can move the call seamlessly from their device to their from their desk phone to their mobile device. And finally, just like any phone service, they'll be able to browse the web, consume data, and do all those productivity tools that they're used to. What it looks like for you guys as the reseller, it allows you to send a pre-activated mobile device directly to the end user, or if you trust them, you can have it do it themselves. It is pretty easy to do on there, and we're coming out with a video that's going to show you how to, it's going to be on our YouTube, and it's going to show you how to do your first-time activation, so you'll even be able to send that over to them. You are also going to be able to bill, your standard billing is going to be on things like data, SMS, and voice usage, as well as an activation and a recurring monthly device fee. And then if you want, as Darren went over, you can pick up additional revenue off of things like hotspots and tablets. It really is, again, as a reseller product, we are trying to make things as flexible as possible so that you can package this the way your customers want. If we go out and compare ourselves against other services, so from a feature perspective, you can see how we kind of line up against these other services. There's a couple, this Ting and Ring Central, those are really consumer MVNO services, and they've got the PBX, they've got the OTT app, or they're an MVNO, versus someone who's like a Ring Central or a Vonage. They're really going to go with the OTT app strategy because that allows them to put more features on, but then you can't get the service revenue. So we're really one of the only ones who provides the majority of the experience, and since we don't compete with OTT apps, if you want to bring that portion to the platform, you're welcome to as well. So how do you charge for this? So here is a fairly current chart. I need to update it because Verizon does offer unlimited now. But the lowest price you're going to get on an unlimited device at the retail level is 60 to 70 bucks a month for unlimited usage. So based off of that, we've done some, we've set this, you guys can definitely make at least as much as a retail sale. We think you can actually add $10 to $20 more a month on this because this is a business-focused, very specific type of offering. But going up to $60, this kind of helps you understand what kind of money you're going to be able to bring in from each of these. So the monthly, there's going to be a handset and a one-time activation. There's also going to be at least $10 to $15 monthly device fee, and then based on their data, voice, and SMS usage, you should be able to charge 60 bucks a month. If you are already a fixed line customer, if you're interested in selling fixed line services through us, you can make another $30 to $40 to $50 a month, depending on how you package it. And so it really isn't hard to actually bring your average revenue per user up to about $100 a month by integrating mobile. We've got a couple sample plans. There's really three ways you can sell this, and we're going to go from the biggest margin to the lowest margin on this. And we're going to go through three plans. One is unlimited per device. The second one is going to be you actually put a cap on the per device, how much each device gets per month, and the third one is you just give the whole account a big bucket to take from. So if you sell unlimited per device, like these guys, first question a lot of our resellers have for us is, how can I do that? How can I do that when it's 10 bucks a gig for me? What if they use up all the stuff? Well, the short answer is these guys don't do it. They all have little caveats. They all throttle you at some point if they don't actually have a real cap and just call it unlimited deceptively. And when you really get down to the nitty-gritty, the average usage for data across all users is 2.5 gigs a month. So all you need to do is be willing to take about 2.5 gigs a month of usage from each of your users, which will only cost you $20 or $21, and you can actually clear easily $25 a month selling an unlimited plan at 60 bucks, which again is highly competitive even for retail. If we go to where each device has a 5 gig limit, the actual margin we can get goes down by $5. That's okay though, because we're still making pretty good money. 20 bucks per user per month margin is pretty decent. As you can see, it's 50 bucks for the data, and then your average, an activated device and how much they're going to end up using on an average every month leaves you at least $20 to spare. Finally, this one is a little different because we did an account pool, so you actually have to divide it up. So we did a 5-device account here. As you can see, your margin goes down to $11 a phone. So this account bucket is maybe the simplest for you from a sales standpoint. I think it's tempting to go to, but you really are going to bring your margin down by about half by doing it, because they're just going to look at the whole pool. They're going to look at their pool of 130 gigabytes, and when they use that up, it's going to be from the overall pool. So they will probably come back to you and say, I've estimated my whole company usage is this much, versus really focusing on the per device fee. Now this is basically, this unlimited, there's a reason it's so profitable. These carriers love this, and it's because of something called breakage. They have a name for it. And it's essentially just making sure that the customer's on a plan where it's enough for them on a monthly basis, but they may not use it up every month. But if they're subscribed to that amount of gigabytes, then you get to charge them for that amount every month. So it's something that you can decide. Again, pricing is in your hands. It's how you can decide how you want to go out in the market. But we wanted to really make sure you understand what the margins look like as you go out to sell this, and you can decide whether or not it's worth it for you. A couple of things, and then I'm going to hand it back off to Darren to talk about how you get your devices and SIM cards. But just really wanted to talk specifically about when you go out and price. You should know we do have the policy control in there to help you set it up correctly. We let you limit the data. We enable you to limit the data by both account and device if you want. The account you have to set a limit for because data is quite expensive, and we don't want you to accidentally allow a customer to use 300 gigs or 500 gigabytes of data and then disappear on you. It's really important to set an account limit, but you can also set then secondary limits on the device. So if you have someone who's abusing the office's data policy, they can be told they only get 5 gigs a month, or they can be told if they use up 5 gigs after that, they can only go on the network at 128 kilobits per second, for instance. And that really helps slow down the overuser's usage. We also give you a handy-dandy CSV you can download every month that allows with each device usage. So that helps you calculate their bill. And then the last piece, as far as how you sell this, we're going to talk about device procurement. And I'm going to hand it back over to Darren again.
Awesome. Okay, so I talked a little bit before about the fact that you can bring any Sprint branded device to the system. But now you're thinking to yourself, okay, what does that actually mean? I want to go out and get one today. How would you do that? So we're going to talk about procuring the devices. How do you actually get these things in your hands? So the first thing that you need to know is there are a couple of rules. You must have a CDMA or LTE enabled device that is considered Sprint eligible. I'm going to go into that more in a minute. We basically strongly recommend, this slide says the word must. We basically mean that. You should make sure that you get a device that is returnable. In case the device has been misrepresented, it can often lead to arguments between whose fault it is if the phone doesn't work and nonsense like that. Just get rid of all that possibility by making sure whoever you buy the phone from, you can return it in case it can't be activated. However, the real rules are that you just need to make sure that it's what's called a clean ESN. The serial number on the phone cannot be marked as lost or stolen in the Sprint database. If it's marked as lost or stolen, we're not going to be able to do anything to remove that mark from that phone. We cannot activate that phone. There's nothing we can do if it's been marked that way. And in addition, it needs to have what's called no financial lock. What that means is when you buy a cell phone, often you buy it from a place that's offering you $0 for the phone and then $80 a month for service. Well, they're bundling in the price into a contract when you do that. And they don't want you to just buy the phone and then cancel your service after a month and then you get a free phone. So they put what's called a financial lock on phones that are bought that way, and it's actually a database that shows that you still owe Sprint money. And so if you still owe Sprint money, either for an outstanding bill or for the device itself, they will not let us activate that device either. So the device you bring has to be clean for the ESN number and also has to have no financial lock on it. Now, outside of that, all Sprint CDMA and LTE devices, like I said before, this should work. Sprint went through a period where they were trying to launch a different network called WiMAX. Those devices most likely will not work, so you should not use a WiMAX device. In addition, we really recommend that you get something that is newer than 3 years. And the reason for that is Sprint has expanded their coverage, but also their spectrum. That is the radio frequencies that they can use, which gets you better coverage and faster service. And they actually have a pretty significant set of spectrum now. So we really want to make sure the device can talk on those same radio frequencies that Sprint talks on. In addition, there's something a little unique that you can also do. I already talked about the financial lock piece. There's a, hold on one sec. There's a interesting thing that you can do now with Sprint, where you can actually, Sprint's network, a lot of the phones that have been sold over the last couple of years, they actually have the same capabilities even when they are a Verizon phone. So there are some ways to take a Verizon phone that's fairly recent and actually move it over to our network because the phone itself supports CDMA and it supports the same bands. Now, this is most common for iPhone 6 or higher, 6 Plus or higher. Certainly iPhone 7, you basically pop the SIM card out of the phone that came with the Verizon package and put ours in. And the phone, in most cases, assuming it is unlocked, which is the key, should then be activatable on our system. In some cases, we also have to add the ID number for the phone to the Sprint database so that they accept it. So most generally speaking, you're going to need to not make this your core marketing strategy. You're really going to want to make sure that this is kind of a one-off where somebody already has a phone they like and they want to keep, but they just want to switch to your service. If that's the scenario you're in, they can probably keep the phone if it's newer, if it's unlocked, and if it was previously on Verizon, but you will need to contact support on our end to get that device ID added to the system so that you can bring it over. Now, in terms of actually getting the devices, there's a couple ways to do it. If you're buying one-offs, you're not going to be able to go to a wholesaler and get phones one-off because they want large commits, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So what we recommend you do is 2 ways. First, if you're okay using a used or refurbished phone, you can go to these sites that I've listed here on the slide. Just to give you an example of what those sites look like, they're pretty easy to navigate. So I'm going to try and pull one up on the screen here. And I can't see my mouse. So basically, you go to some of these sites and you'll say that you want to buy a phone, and they'll ask you which carrier the phone needs to work on, and you can then click Sprint, and if you choose that, then the devices that are showing here are basically what you can bring. So you can see that even here, you can buy a perfectly good Samsung Galaxy S7, which is what I use and I like a lot, and it's only $280, right? So that's significantly cheaper than the retail price, and it's totally within the realm of what you could sell to a customer. And if you click here, you'll see there's tons of them available, so it's pretty easy to get these one-off. And they range in condition because they are used, so you just need to watch that and make sure that it's what you're looking for. You can also do eBay, but again, you got to be a little more careful on eBay because you never know who's selling on there, and the phones haven't necessarily been checked the same way. So you need to make sure the phone is listed with a clean ESN and has a return policy. This strategy of one-offs is really good for you guys who are trying to ramp up and you're trying to figure out if this mobile thing's for you, because there's no commits, so you can get started easily. And the other thing you can do is you can buy brand new phones. Now you have to buy them at full price, but you can go straight to Google and buy a Nexus phone. You can go to Apple and buy an iPhone. You can go to Best Buy, for example, and get a Samsung phone. As long as you pay full price, there should not be a financial lock on the phone. However, be very careful. If the guy at the store convinces you to go activate the phone, and don't worry, you're still paying full price, you've now activated the phone on Sprint. You may complicate or cause a contract to start, which you didn't realize. You may simply owe some money to Sprint immediately by doing that, and now I can't move the device over. You can't activate it on our system. So get them to give you the phone in the box. Don't activate it there. Don't sign a contract. Pay full price, and then you should be able to activate that on our system as well. And just in case, you should always leave some time to test, and you should make sure that you can return the phone just in case. But most of the times, you can basically walk into a store, or you can go onto those 4 sites that I listed to buy a phone. Now, if you are in a scenario where you have a customer who is definitely going to buy 100 phones, and you want to try and get the best price, and you want to get them wholesale, and you want them all new or similar, or you want all the same models. And we do have access to various wholesalers. These wholesalers are under a lot of pressure to ship inventory all the time, so they won't really even talk to us unless we come to them with 50, 100, 200 phones. Usually a month is what they're looking for to sell. We're not quite up to those volumes yet, but you can help us get there. You can either work with us directly, and we will basically sell you those phones through those wholesalers. We already have relationships with them. Or we're also happy to refer you to the wholesalers, and you can set up a relationship with them yourself. So feel free, if you already know that you have an opportunity here, or you have the finances to commit to hundreds of phones right up front, and you're sure that you've got a model that's going to work with selling mobile services, drop us a note, and we will make that happen. We will work with you on that. Now, once you get the phone, you got one other issue you got to tackle, which is the pesky little SIM cards. The SIM cards are actually different depending on the phone model. So there's slightly different sizes available, but most of them are the same size these days. But there's also some information embedded on the SIM card itself, and it has to match the phone that you're putting the SIM card in. Rather than give you a big chart right now and make this all complicated, we're going to keep it pretty simple. It's $7 a SIM card plus shipping, and there's cheaper prices available if you want to buy them in bulk. You can usually resell these for like $10 if you look, for example, at a similar vendor called Ting. They also sell them for $10 plus $5 shipping, so certainly there's a little bit of markup here still left for you guys to ship that to your client. And all you need to do is submit us a support ticket, how many you want, where you want them shipped, and what kind of phone they're going to be put into. And then we'll make sure that it's the right SIM card for that phone, and we'll get that off to you. So that is how the SIM cards work. So you buy the phone, you buy the SIM card, put the SIM card in the phone, and you're off to the races. And I'm going to hand this back over to Aaron now that you know how to get the phone.
Great. Thanks again, Darren. So that's pretty much it. We're going to summarize this a little bit, and then we're going to go into Q&A. So remember at the beginning of this slide, I showed you what the current mobile reseller market looked like and how, depending on which one you choose, there's always some compromises there. Well, with 2600 hertz, we have combined the best of all three. And now you, as a reseller, can have control over the signal and the policy over that signal. Gives you control over your revenue because you can now go price this and sell this however you want, including, and we didn't mention this, white labeling is available if you submit an application through us. There is a Sprint requirement that they're able to review that application before you guys go sell, but you can actually sell this under your own brand name if you're serious about doing it. And we give you control over the experience. We don't compete with other, you can still put a soft phone app on there if you want, but you certainly don't have to. And in terms of the PBX functionality, with that server-side control, it's really very limited set of things you can't do on the mobile device. And just to wrap up and really drive some important points home for you guys that I really want to make sure you heard in today's call, you now have several new revenue streams at your disposal, which is exciting because I think that's one of the biggest things resellers are coming to us with is how can I improve my per seat price? Well, this is one of the best ways you have now, and nobody else has it. This is an easy and simple way to put a work-owned wireless device in your end user's hands. Again, a lot of our fixed line PBX guys have been coming to us asking for mobility solutions. You are not going to be left behind anymore. You can compete with a mobile solution. And it's not just any mobile solution, it's a unique mobile solution that allows you to pick up that recurring revenue. And we have everything for you to get started today. Now we have a bunch of both existing clients and people who are interested who are not clients yet. So two slightly different slides if you want to get this today. If you're an existing client, all you have to do is make sure there's $50 on your account, and then you can contact your sales rep. They will start you on a 30-day trial period just for mobile. As part of that process, they will offer you a sample phone kit. It's $300 for a used Samsung 6 with the SIM card already in it. So this makes it very easy for you to activate and just start trying out this service for you or for one of your customers. And at the end of that 30 days, if you like that phone, you can keep it. We'll just we'll bill you for that. But if you don't, you're able to return it. So that way you can get 30 days just to try the mobile experience. And while you're doing that, you should be getting ready to start selling, determining your pricing, laying that stuff down so that you can go out in the market. New clients, pretty similar story. Contact sales at 2600 hertz if you're interested in going further with this product. We will set up a 30-day trial account for you that will include both the mobile as well as access to Smart PBX and the reseller tools. We will need a $50 deposit again from you to cover usage, but that that's part of the trial. And then same thing, we'll get you a sample phone kit, and you can start selling as soon as you're ready. So, thank you very much. I'm going to turn the webcam back on now so you can see Darren and I. Again, sales at 2600 hertz if you want to start adding this to your portfolio. And now we're going to open it up.
Well,
oh, go ahead.
I actually decided in the last minute, because that's what I do, that I want to hijack this for 1 minute. We didn't show the fancy portal. Let's do it.
Okay, Darren wants to show the fancy portal. We're going.
All right, so I'm going to somehow take control here of this sharing screen here, and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like so just do this real quick here. All right, so hopefully you can see my screen here, and show. All right. So this is what the portal looks like when you're in the 2600 hertz mobile service. You can see that I'm only showing a few people's phones here because I don't want their phone numbers everywhere. Basically, you've got at the top right of the screen, you've got how much usage is for this whole account. So Aaron was talking a bit about how to sell this. One way that's pretty common when you're dealing with businesses is to sell them a bucket of data, let's say 50 gigs a month, and then all the phones pull from the same bucket. Right? So that's showing that had we said, let's say, sold 50 gigs for this month, we've used 19.7 across all of the phones. Now, if we take a look at my phone in particular, I'm going to go ahead and bring it up and click this little settings button, but you can see I've already used 6.2 gigs so far this month, and I personally have no limit. And we could change that. So if you decided that 6 gigs was too much, I'm using way too much data, there's a limit section where you can actually modify that. And there's also information about my SIM card, my ESN, what kind of phone I have. I have a Samsung Galaxy here. And I can head over to limits, and I can actually say, Darren uses too much data. 8 gigs or 8,000 megs, we're going to turn them off altogether. But when he's getting close to there, you'll notice in competitive landscape on the market, a lot of people throttle the data when you start using too much. So you can actually say, you know what, Darren's data is just going to get really slow. It's going to drop down to 128K per second after he reaches 5.5 gigs. That way you can kind of prevent people from doing video streaming or other things like that, but still offering unlimited or high caps on the actual total data usage for the month. You can also trigger whether they're allowed to use the hotspot feature on their phone or not. So that's actually remotely controllable. And the other thing that's interesting to note is you can see little snippets of how much usage has occurred over time. So you can see that I used 33 megs all of a sudden around 2 p.m. yesterday. And you can kind of get little stats like this to track what's happening on the system. You can see that while I was sleeping, I wasn't using very much, and so on and so forth. So this gives you an idea of the portal. There's also some sections for activating phones and some other fun stuff to play with, but I'm told we're running late on time, so I'm not going to go through this. But it's real fun to use this, and you get a ton of control over what it can do here. All right, so I'm going to hand this back to you, Aaron, so you can show any other slides on here. I don't know where your name is here. There you go. Okay, so let's do some questions. So you want to fire up your video again?
Yeah, just a moment.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to answer some questions now, and I'll go ahead and start with the questions that folks have typed into the little chat bar here. So the first question is, does this work for self-hosted? I think what you mean by self-hosted, we have several products which allow you to run our software on your own equipment. There's both open source as well as private cloud as well as global infrastructure. Those 3 products are all basically where you're running your own servers. Today, you are not able to link the mobile offering to those services. That is really a time constraint issue. It is not really too much of a technical issue. We hope to have that resolved within the next, let's say, 2 months if I'm lucky. And if we can get it out sooner than that, we will. Basically, the provisioning is too difficult for most users to do. We actually launched that way originally, and pretty much everyone couldn't figure it out. And so obviously it was too complicated. So we're retooling that, and we're going to go ahead and make it so you can route the mobile handsets and the mobile calls to both the open source solution as well as any paid products that you may have with our system. So the short answer to that is no, you can't do that today. And yes, you will be able to do that within the next month or two. If you watch our newsletter updates, we will very loudly announce that once it's ready. We do realize that that's what a lot of people want. We just need to figure out how to make the provisioning easier. So that is what we're working on doing. Somebody asked what the advantages of 2600 Hertz has in terms of the data services on the platform. That is an interesting question. So today, the main advantage is that you can pool your data usage together across all devices, and you pay in 100 meg increments, not in gigabit increments, and you pay at wholesale rates. So frankly, the cost piece is really much better, and the ability to provision your own devices and SIM cards and activate them on your own is also a significant advantage. We get a lot of people who are shipping devices out into the field, and they just want a nice interface where they can go in and they can immediately activate those devices without having to talk to anybody or sign any complicated contracts. And that gives you that ability. In addition, you get the real-time monitoring within the portal, so you can see what people are using. And you also get the ability to limit and throttle people, which you can't always do on some of the other services that are out there. They're certainly not as intuitive. So I would argue that those are probably the main advantages to having the data service with 2600 Hertz. There's some questions in here about using this either via roaming or in other countries. Specifically, there's a question about Canada. I apologize. We do not offer this service anywhere outside of the US yet. We are hoping to add that ability. We would actually really like, I talked a year or so ago about this, and I'd still like to do it. We'd like to add another carrier if we can. Sprint's actually really improved their coverage dramatically, so we're less concerned about that at this point. But it would be nice if we had a GSM product as well to match this. So we're still pursuing that, and we probably will be able to offer other countries once we've done that. At this point, we cannot. So this is a US-based product only. Okay, lots of questions here. Somebody asked if the phone activates successfully. Okay, so based on my comments about the financial lock, the process where Sprint will block on their network any phone that has an outstanding cost or payment still pending. The question was, if the phone activates successfully, can Sprint come in later and turn the phone off if they discover that there's been a financial issue with the phone? The answer is, I don't believe so. We've never had that happen. And as far as I know, once that financial lock check actually happens at activation time. So I'm unaware of any way where they can turn it off later. Obviously, they're the network and the contract holders. That if you've got some weird scheme going on where you've managed to defraud them and buy hundreds of phones at their expense and they figure it out, they're probably going to come after you or come after us in some way, and we're going to have to act. But generally speaking, if you just found a one-off phone and someone didn't pay their bill or doesn't pay later, as far as I know, they won't be able to turn that off later. Once you've activated it on our service, it's already been approved and is cleared. Okay, let's see, a lot of questions here. Do we have a plan to launch this platform in Europe? We would love to do that. We would love to partner with and become an MVNO in Europe. It is time consuming, and so we're not quite there yet. But that is something that once we can do GSM, since GSM is more popular in Europe, is probably in the cards. Today, we don't have any firm plans for that yet. Being asked if we support Wi-Fi calling, we will support whatever Sprint enables on their network. Right now, we do not have VoLTE or Wi-Fi calling that is native with them. You can, however, install an app if you choose to on the phone that will also augment the current service that's the voice-enabled service with Wi-Fi as well, just through SIP credentials. So you can do it. It's really up to you if you want to do that. It does make the user experience a little trickier on the phone, but it's totally possible. So the question is whether we support it. We'll support you turning it on. You risk call quality when you go over Wi-Fi, but it will work. Another question, do voice calls consume the data limit? They do not, because they're not data. So on our system, voice calls are true, native, optimized voice calls over the carrier's network. We don't do it. It's not VoIP over the handset. So a voice call will not consume any data because it's not using data. It's using the voice circuit. Let's see. There are way more questions than I'm going to be able to answer in here. Somebody has asked a question about a competitor that I'm not going to answer, but it's very funny. Thank you, Matt. That's amusing. Somebody is asking about codecs for video calls. As far as I know, the handsets do not support video on the native cell phone networks yet, so that is basically going to be an over-the-top app that you're talking about there. You could use WebRTC, you could use other features that we support. Yep, you could use VPA, but those are all going to use your data circuit, and they're going to require an app. They really don't have much to do with the cell phone itself. They have more to do with Kazoo, and so that's kind of a separate question. I would be happy to answer that question separately after this, but in terms of mobile, it's just voice calling because that's what's actually there. Somebody asked about Verizon phones and moving Verizon phones over to the Sprint network. And the question is, are there any issues with Sprint blocking activation on a device that has a Verizon ESN number? You know, Sprint's a different network. When we put the SIM card into the phone goes and tries to register with Sprint. It doesn't really know that it was a Verizon phone. There's no such thing really. So what that means is the phone itself has to just be programmed to accept foreign SIM cards. So basically what that really means is when the manufacturer ships that phone to Verizon, you buy it from Verizon, and then you try and take it to Sprint, Verizon may have locked the phone. There's a process called unlocking. In a lot of cases, you can call the carrier and ask them to unlock the phone, and if it's fully paid off, they will do that. There was actually some FCC legislation about that. Whether or not it's still in place or not is to be determined, but you can actually go ahead and try that. Basically, if the SIM card is put into the phone and you reset the soft settings on the phone itself, it should go ahead and accept that SIM card from Sprint, in which case it should be able to work with the Sprint network. So as far as I know, you cannot block the activation of the device outside of the device being unlocked. All right, more questions. Can you do call recording? You sure can. Since the calls go over the native network and they traverse to Kazoo, you can do call recording in conjunction with the phone. We're working on some features also where you can do some prefixes, where you can say which caller ID to use and what feature set is available. You can hack some of those things together now if you're crafty enough with the API. If you need a user interface for that, give us a little more time and you'll get that too. But it is possible to do call recording, and it's going to get much richer as things go on. So remember, you're subscribing to a service that's not static today. Whatever features are in Kazoo today, you can access, but any new features we offer in the future as well, they'll also be applicable to the phone. And certainly enhanced call recording is one of those. So that is possible. Another question is, are international and long-distance calls billed the same rate card that Kazoo uses? The answer is yes, because we are serving as the phone company. This gives you tremendous discounts on international calls outbound. So when you call internationally, you're using our VoIP circuits to do that. So you get heavy discounts on those per minute calls outbound. Another interesting thing about the international use case, you can actually buy inbound international numbers, say for European phone numbers, for cell phones that are in the US. So you can actually route calls where the caller dials, let's say, a number in France, but they actually ring your cell phone in the US. One of the very first use cases we had with mobile is an organization in New York which tailors solely to students who are visiting the States on a visa for a month or two, and they would issue them a temporary cell phone, and they'd give them a US phone number as well as a French cell phone number, and that way their family that's back in France can make a local call and reach their cell phone in the US, but also the friends and people they meet in the US can also get the US number and talk to them that way. So the answer is yes, the rates are applicable and they work both ways. The question is there a limit on minutes or text messages? The limits on minutes or text messages, if you take a look at our website, you have the rates on there. So hopefully that answers your question on that. There's not really a limit other than how much money you can put into your account because it is a prepay service. Outside of that, there's no technical limits on how much you can use as long as you have the money to back it. All right. I'm not going to get through all these, but I'll try and get through as many of these as we can, and we'll probably cut this off around 12:15 here. Somebody asked about faxes. I am not sure what that has to do with cell phones, and I really hope faxing is not coming to cell phones, because I keep hoping faxing will just die as a thing. But I would need more information about what the question is regarding faxes. I'm not sure how that's related to mobile here. Okay. Somebody asked again about roaming. So to be clear, we do not support roaming. It must be on the Sprint network. The Sprint network has really evolved. Most people aren't aware of this, but it's the same company is now managing the cell phone towers. Managing the cell phone towers across all the carriers for the most part. So they generally now are having roughly the same coverage. Sprint is having a hard time messaging that to people so that they believe them, but you'll see some Sprint ads running about 1% coverage compared to Verizon or other firms, and that's true. They're basically all using the same towers and similar technology at this point. So while we don't offer LTE roaming to other carriers, you really shouldn't need it in most places because the coverage should basically match. The other big thing used to be that Sprint's frequencies were higher, which made it less likely to penetrate buildings and walls, which made the service not as good as some of their competitors. But they repurposed the Nextel frequencies for Sprint usage, which has basically fixed that problem as well. So we don't really run into those problems anymore, and so that should work. You should really not have any problems even though roaming isn't turned on there. Okay, so some questions about voice codecs on the Sprint network. There's one question about HD voice. There's another question about some of the enhanced
G711
yeah.
and other stuff.
Correct. So today we only get a G711 handoff from Sprint. They do not offer us the HD voice quality. But I want to point something out about that most people are unaware of. Cell phone carriers who are pitching HD service on the mobile handsets, this is not the same HD service that you're thinking of when you talk about VoIP phones or you talk about WebRTC. It's an enhanced codec that they use on the cell phone network. And even if you have one of those phones, and even if it's native through Sprint, when you make an outbound call and it goes to the PSTN network, it goes back to G711. You will notice an enhanced audio quality with our service because we passed G711 to Sprint, and Sprint used to use the GSM protocol to talk to the cell phone. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the answer basically is it's not what most people consider HD, but it is better than the current GSM crummy audio quality people are kind of used to on older generation cell phones. The other thing is some of the HD technology that people talk about with the cell phone actually has to do with the speaker and the microphone in the handset itself. So you have to have all these components line up to make them better. And we have most of those components, but we don't support the enhanced codec on the inter-network piece. All right, we got time for a few more questions here.
I also just want to mention real quick that the primary mechanism that we deliver the voice signal to you is via SIP. So it is a SIP connection when you're looking at it. You do not have to be a mobile wireless expert. You do not have to do any SIP transcoding. That is all taken care of on our side.
Excellent, thank you. Let's see. A couple of questions I don't actually know the answer of. Does mobile voice billing start when the call is answered or when it is ringing? I believe it's the total since the call's inception, but I can check on that. I'm not sure the answer to that. I already answered the open source one. Okay, actually we're getting through most of these. So this is a good one. Does 911 go through Kazoo or is it routed through Sprint? Anything you dial on the handset that is less than 4 digits goes through Sprint. That's how they take care of 911, 311, 411, all of those services. The only exception is 611 for repair and 0 for operator services. Those actually get routed to us. And we currently play a recording that the service isn't available. So that we basically don't support those two numbers. All other numbers that you're used to working that are less than 4 digits will work on your phone. Anything over 4 digits goes to us, no matter what you dial. So if you dial 1234 and you hit send, we're going to get that. If you dial 12, we're not going to get that. So anything over 4 digits. That implies that 911 also does go through Sprint, and you don't need to provision 911 through a VoIP provider in order to use this. 911 will be 100% handled by Sprint via geolocation and the tower triangulation services that they have. People are asking about pricing. The pricing is on the website. If you scroll down on the mobile site section of our website, you will see the pricing. We are publishing the reseller pricing because it's the #1 thing we get asked, and that's the fastest route. I realize for some of you that you don't really want us to publish the pricing. We've kind of argued about this multiple times internally. We've actually, our poor marketing team has removed it and put it back 2 times on the website. The reality is when we don't post it, a lot of people think that it's going to be thousands of dollars to get started, and we really don't want to leave that impression. When we say starts at $5 or something, $15, then they think that that's some sort of scam. So we just decided to publish this. The reality is the value add, most people can't come to us and just sign up without some sort of minimum. An individual user is not going to come here and sign up for this because, as you see on the bottom of this, we put a $99 base monthly fee on it to even get access to it. Plus, you have to have a Kazoo platform to route it to. So as much as I have heard some comments where people say, well, you know, my customer is just going to go look at your website and see the pricing, the reality is your response to that is, yeah, that's incomplete. You have to buy all the other stuff and make the work part of it work. So that pricing is only part of the service offering. And I think that you're not lying when you say that. It's a very honest answer. And if they don't believe you and they call us, well, we're going to tell them to go buy it through a partner reseller anyway. So it's not going to work.
And just if you particularly have that concern, if it's a big concern for you, talk to us because again, we can get you so it's a completely 100% white labeled product, just like with everything else we do. So you know, there's several ways we can handle that process, and we don't want anybody to feel like they're not empowered here to value add and add some revenue onto this.
Agreed. A couple other questions. Somebody asked, does it take a bit longer to connect for incoming calls? It really shouldn't. Callers will hear a couple seconds of ringing in general when you call a mobile phone. Most people just don't realize it. While the system is actually finding where the phone is physically located, notifying that tower. It's something called the home location routing system, and that's how the cell phone company finds you. And a lot of people will call their phone once and then call through our phone and be like, oh, it takes longer. Sometimes literally you've woken up your phone recently, so the phone knows already and it's in a cache with the provider, so it finds it quicker. So you can't really assume that unless you try it like 100 times and average all the numbers out. It should be pretty close though. It doesn't take much longer to route through the Kazoo system. Somebody asked, does that mean you can't use 3-digit extension numbers on the PBX? Yes, it means you cannot use 3-digit extension numbers in the PBX. Not if you want extension dialing. So again, one of the features of this system is you can dial 4-digit or more extension numbers to call between phones, just as if you were sitting at your desk. But as I said, 3 digits, they don't get passed to us. They stay within the Sprint network, and so Sprint will reject those calls. Okay, let's see. I think we're getting... okay, so one of the questions is, can the MMS and SMS messages from your cell phone be sent and received to all other carriers? The answer is yes. Because we are now an official Sprint MVNO and we have an eSPID, the other carriers will accept our SMS and our MMS traffic. So unlike some of these over-the-top applications where MMS especially is spotty and not always received, that is not the case here. You are able to send and receive MMS and SMS just like you would with a regular phone. All right, I think that's going to cover us on time here and on questions. There's a couple lingering questions here, but they're similar to ones that I've already answered. If there are specific questions you want answered, please feel free to reach out to our sales team, to our account team, to us on IRC, to us anywhere you can think of us. And I think there's a whole bunch of contact information right on your screen. I do want to stress that we don't consider this product really in beta anymore. This product is live. People have been using this actually for a couple of years now. We've been working out all the kinks on it, and that demo I gave you in the portal of the actual usage stats and the billing, that's all live. So you can go ahead and use that today. You can activate cell phones today. These things are actually functioning and working. We will do some follow-ups on this, both in email form as well as probably some more webinars to go over all the nitty-gritty details on how to use the service. Because we didn't really cover like the step-by-step activation today and show any of that stuff. But it is in the portal for you to play with at this point. We're trying to get a lot of volume on this system at this point. The volume gives us some ability to get better pricing from our carriers. It also gives us the ability to establish more contracts with more vendors. That means GSM, that means Europe, that means more cell phone equipment that we can do. So anything you guys do helps us grow the business as well so that we become a more established player. So please keep the feedback coming. Let us know how we can make this happen. I do realize that probably the #1 request we're going to get out of this is, a way to route this to both the open source platforms as well as those of you with private cloud installs or global infrastructure. That is very, very close. I apologize that it's not available on the same day that we're launching everything else on the hosted platform. Again, the technical pieces aren't even worked out. We need to figure out how to get the user interface set up so that people understand how to pair the devices with your own platform. So it's a little bit complicated. We're going to try and simplify it, and then we'll launch that as well. And it'll be available there more.
Well, and one other thing I wanted to just point out for our open source community, I think sometimes people are nervous about going on the hosted platform. They're worried they're going to lose their customers or not have the control over them. I think one thing we want our community to hear is if you want to start selling mobile, you can start selling mobile on a hosted platform, and we have the ability to move those accounts over. We just want you to start selling. So if you're on open source, if you're on private cloud and you just want to get started selling mobile, we still have sort of a backdoor way for you to do that, and then move those clients back to your primary experience once we've got the MVNO for private cloud in place.
There's one other teaser that I'm going to throw out here, except Aaron's going to shoot me from saying this. Sprint does give us the ability to also route the data packets from the phones through our system and through corporate firewalls. It's a little bit expensive to set up, but I know some of you guys pitch toward enterprise-leaning companies, and I think it's super attractive as an offering to be able to issue cell phones to employees, give them a personal and a work number on the phone, and then also know that they're not using the phone to browse non-corporate sites if that's not allowed by the security policy of the corporation. That means that this is kind of the answer to, like, you can give them their favorite iPhone 7, they can still play games, but they can't navigate to whatever website they want or download files or otherwise if you wanted to go through the corporate firewall. That is something we'd love to do. It's an expensive project. We're talking $100K or more. But for some of you guys, that's actually something you seem interested in. So if you are one of those people, please let me know. For now, you basically just get a generic internet connection, but we do have the capability to do more there. There's just a bit of a setup cost. So if that's of interest to you guys, please tell us, and we'd love to work with you on that as well. I think that's it. So thank you all for joining. Aaron, thank you for setting this up, and Irina and Miriam behind the scenes, and everyone else who's been a part of this, and all you folks who joined us today. We really appreciate the turnout, and we're super excited to get this product off the ground finally. And we hope you have fun playing with it. Thank you very much. See you soon.